Hello everyone and welcome back to Jacqs. Thanks for joining me today for the tutorial of my stuffed envelope mini album. And I am loving the feedback that I'm getting from all of you, so thank you so much. I also want to say that I have succeeded in getting more than 4K subscribers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will have the link down below for the free cut files, patterns, and project sheet, or as you might know it, as a cutting guide. So excited to bring that to you, as well as this project. I absolutely love it. Super fun, and I can just see making this in all different kinds of themes, even beyond that of Christmas. So I hope you will give it a try. Now let's get started. We're going to work on the pages first, and then we'll move into the cover. So what I started with was 8.5 by 11 black artisan cardstock from Country Craft Creations. And I cut down the cardstock to measure 6 1/4 by 9 1/4. And when you do that, it looks like this. And you're going to need 4 of these, 6 1/4 by 9 1/4. Later on, I include a 5th page because I spaced my pages on the spine differently than I originally intended. So cut 5 pages to mirror exactly what I've done. The next thing we're going to do is score this on the long side at a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and 5. For this mini album, we are using L pages, and what that means is that we're actually using the cardstock as our hinge as it is connected to our page. So we're going to fold back on the 1/2 inch score line and burnish that. And if we just look at this a moment, you can see that it has a shape of an L. And that's where the L pages come from, if you've never heard of them before or ever used them. The 1/4 of an inch here is extra space so that the pages lay over on each other without bulking up too much. You can go ahead and crease the 1/4 of an inch if you like, or you can wait. Sometimes it's nice to go ahead and crease that so you can see it more readily when we get to working on our pages. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And we can go ahead and burnish our last score line there. We're going to fold that over and burnish. So you're going to do that to all pages. As I get ready to add pattern paper and embellishments to our base page, I wanted you to know the direction and how I'm using the actual page. So if we have this completely opened, down here on the left-hand side is our hinges. We have the 1/2 inch and the 1/4 inch. And we are always going to fold down and under for our 3rd score line, right? So I will be decorating this portion here as the front. So wherever the hinges are, the part above it is going to be the front, and the part that has the additional flap will be the back side. I think it'll be easier for you to know that ahead of time so that we are all decorating in the same direction. Now for this mini album, I am making it landscape, but keep in mind this could easily be turned portrait. You can use the same measurements and the same sizing of everything. I just wanted to do it landscape for an aesthetic feel for me personally. But, you know, if you don't like it landscape, you can certainly change it to the other direction and still follow along. So I am going to open this up to start working on the front. You're going to need 1 piece of pattern paper that measures 4 1/4 by 4. And then you're going to need 1 piece of cardstock that measures 2 by 4 1/4. And we're going to make a pocket for this on the left-hand side. And the pattern paper for that, you're going to need one piece that measures 1 3/4 by 4. Those will get glued onto each other. And then you're going to need one piece of cardstock that measures 4 1/2 by 4. And you're going to score on the long side at 1/2 inch. So we're going to fold over and burnish. And then for this piece, you're going to need a pattern piece of paper that measures 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. That'll be the front. And then you'll need a photo mat that is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 for the back side of it. I'm just showing you all the pieces right now. And then I'm going to include one tag as my closure for the entire page, okay? So that's all the elements. Now we can start gluing everything together. Okay, so that was the pocket. For our flip out, let's add adhesive to the hinge on the back side of it. We're going to add that to our base page, and it's going to have 1/8 of an inch on each side of this piece, okay? So just line it up with the edge of the page. Once you have that aligned, go ahead and burnish that down. Now we can take the 4 1/4 by 4 pattern piece, and we're going to glue that over the hinge area. The entire project, in most cases, uses 1/8 of an inch border. So I used 1/8 of an inch or no border at all. So I'm just putting this right over where the hinge is, just not over the score line. So you have your 1/8 of an inch border still going around the pattern paper. Now we can take our pocket piece. We're going to add adhesive to 3 sides. So we're keeping the right side of the cardstock open for tucking, and we're gluing the other 3 sides. And this should go all the way across the page. I just did that for ease. Okay. Just make sure your edges are aligned. Now you can use a white piece of cardstock as your photo mat here on the inside, or you can use my photo mats. That is a digital download that's linked in the description box as well. And then I always use a restickable glue, or if you have restickable tape, you could use that as well to place your photo mats down. This not only informs the recipient what size to use, but that they can just remove this, throw it away, and add their own photo there, right? Okay, let's burnish this a little bit. And then we can add our pattern paper to the front of that. And then we have our tag as our closure. And there is the front of our page complete. Okay, let's flip this over and work on the back of page 1. I'm using one of the 6x4 journal cards, and I'm going to glue that onto the front. Now you could glue this on 3 sides and make it a pocket if you want, but I'm just using it as a decorative place. Oh, I was going to put a magnet. Okay. Me and my magnets, we just love each other. For this one, I was going to use a magnet. For the other pages, I think I decided other ways to close them. You could use a paper clip as a closure for this if you wanted to and you didn't want to use magnets. You could also use, you know, Velcro. I'm only doing it here on this end because I've glued this side down already. Also remember the orientation. So I'm going to flip this open, and on the inside I was just going to add 2 photo mats. Okay, so I'm just going to add my 4x6 photo mat here at the bottom. Like I mentioned earlier, if you don't want to do the photo mats, you can use white cardstock. You could even use pattern paper. Now, I don't typically like to have my magnets show, but since I'm using the photo mats, they will see the magnet when they go to remove it. So I'm breaking one of my own rules that I don't like, is when you can see the magnets. But I think I have a good reason for it. Okay, let's see how that works. Yes. Okay, that's our first page, all done. Very nice. Yep, love it. Okay, so I pulled out my second base page and we're all ready to go there. The first thing you want to do is also cut out a piece of cardstock that measures 4 by 4.5. You're going to put that on the long side and score it at 1/2 inch. Fold that over and burnish. We are going to add adhesive to the inside of this hinge, and we're going to attach it to a piece of pattern paper that measures 6 by 4. Now I'm leaving out the scoreboard because I figured this would be the easiest way to do this. So we want to attach these two together, putting the hinge on the back side of our pattern paper. So because this is 6 inches and this is 4, we need to line these up at the 1 and 5 inch mark. So I'm just going to use the scoreboard, as you can see here, as a way to do that. That made it so much easier to get this in the center. Look at that. Awesomeness. And this is a flip up. So before we set this down, we need to add our magnet to the back of our pattern paper. And so we want this to be closed right around the center here. Well, it might be easier to put that one first, so let's do that. I'm going to put it on the front, right about there in the center. And then let's turn this over. We can match up where it is on the back, of course. One day I will figure out the magnets to where the tape is on the front. Okay. And now we can remove this and glue this down. On the inside, we're going to add a 4x4 photo mat. This covers the entire area. You could do a smaller photo mat if you wish. And now we can add our pattern paper to the front of that. And this measures 4x4. And this is actually one of the journal cards from the collection. And this is just going to cover the entire piece. If you want a border, you can go ahead and cut that down. Okay, now let's work on the back side of page 2. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. You're going to need one piece of pattern paper that measures 6x3. And let's go ahead and glue that down. I don't know if you like me to tell you all of the pieces and then show you, or tell you the pieces and show you along the way. So maybe you guys can let me know that in the description box if you want me to show the pieces and then put it together, or put it together along the way. That would be really helpful. So we're just going to put this down, again leaving your 1/8 of an inch border. Next, you'll need one piece of pattern paper that measures 6 by 1.5, and we're going to make a pocket out of this, gluing on 3 sides. You could back this with cardstock first. I just elected not to in this particular case. And you're going to put this on again where there will be an 1/8 of an inch border. So if the page is folded, it'll look like that. Okay, so these two pieces will overlap just a little bit. And for that, I thought it would be fun to add this like door pull to the front of this, but I want to cut apart all of the extra here. And maybe this is something I can do later and add it. I think that's what I'll do. So I'm going to cut this out, probably back it on some cardstock, and glue that to the middle here. I mean, you could glue it on just like that. I just don't want all the extra stuff. I don't think it's necessary. And I think that would be really cute. So I'll do that off camera because that'll take some time. But that's it for this page. And then we flip this down. So, you know, be cognizant of the directions. Just like this one, we have our little flip. When we flip it down, it'll be in this direction. So when it's up, it's upside down. See that? Why am I doing all these upside down projects? I don't know. Okay, so we flip this open. If you followed my last project, which I'll have linked down below for you. This one has a lot of pieces, parts, but it's going to be fun. Just gonna lay everything out here. First, you're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock. And these will measure 6.5 by 4. And you're going to score at 1/2 inch on both pieces. We're going to fold over on the 1/2 inch and burnish. You're going to have one with the hinge on the left-hand side and one with the hinge on the right-hand side. And we're going to add adhesive to the back side of that hinge and add it to our page, leaving an 1/8 of an inch border at the top and the bottom. So we attach this to the right, and when our hinge is on the left, we attach it to the left-hand side of our base page with that 1/8 of an inch top and bottom. On the front of our flip outs, you're going to need 2 pieces of pattern paper that measure 3 1/4 by 4. And we're going to glue these down. They'll fit all the way across the flip out panel that we just added. Next to that, we're going to use one of the 3x4 journal cards. We're going to glue this down on 3 sides and make a pocket out of it. There will be a little bit of an overlap. Glue up to the score line, but don't go over it. And then you'll take one of your tags, add some little twine to it, and that will go into the pocket. We're going to repeat the same process on the front of this flap. Might as well open that up. We're going to just change where our placement is. So let me show you. So we had the green polka dot paper here. We're going to place it on the left-hand side on this side. We're using another 3x4 journal card to make our pocket, and then another tag. For our pocket, we're leaving the left side open. Again, bring that right up to the score line, but don't go over it there. Always check the back sides. Make sure it looks good and burnish that down. And then insert our tag. Now, if you're wondering how I do this, I took 2 strands of the jute twine, looped that through each other, and then I took some more jute twine separately and made a bow, and then used an adhesive glue dot to put that on top of the other twine. I just love that look. Okay, then on the inside, you're going to need 2 4x6 photo mats for each of these places. Again, feel free to modify where I have photo mats and, you know, add what you want there if you don't want a photo mat. So we have this done. We've added our photo mats. As a closure, you could use magnets. Remember that we have magnets here on the front, so you would really just be adding like a 3rd magnet somewhere in here, maybe even a 4th, I'm not even sure. It does get pretty thick, but I think it's the ribbon that's making it a little bit bulky. What I decided to do was use a decorative paper clip, and I'm just going to add that here down at the bottom. I think it kind of goes with this whole like drawer pull accessory here. So I think it'll be good, and the color goes really well. So I'm okay with that. But using a paper clip is just a different way to have a closure instead of the same old thing all the time. Plus, I'm really running out of magnets, and so I'm trying to do other types of closures. So that's page 2 all done. For page 3, you're going to need 1 piece of pattern paper that measures 6 by 4. And we're going to go ahead and glue that onto our base page. Now what I'm going to do is kind of create like a little belly band pocket, I guess. And I'm using this from the ephemera pieces. And I'm going to put this in the center. Going to mark where I need to cut this off, or maybe it'd be easier to do this way. For this project, I've been using black archival ink just to go around the edges. And I'm going to glue this down at the bottom and at the top. And then we're going to tuck in 2 1/4 by 3 1/4 inch photo mats into this area. Now I just realized I didn't glue down the center of the tree, which is what I actually wanted to do. So this can go all the way through it if you want to put in a larger piece. My idea was to just use this as a place to put 2 photo mats. I think that's cute. So you could glue down at the bottom, at the top, and then down the center is what I wanted to do to get these 2 little pockets, or keep it open in the center and put a larger piece. Okay, so that's the front. For the back, what we're going to do is actually cut off this top piece. So we're cutting this at 5. Okay. Now we want to take our cutoff piece and cut this down to 2 3 by 4 1/4 pieces. So 2 3 by 4 1/4. You're also going to need to cut 2 pieces of cardstock that measure 1 inch by 4 1/4. You're going to score down the center at 1/2 inch on both pieces. Fold back and burnish. Then you're also going to need to cut out 2 pieces of cardstock that measure 2 3/8 by 1 3/8. For these 2 pieces, we want to take and add adhesive down the center. Put our second piece on top. This is going to become our closure. And for the top of that, I have a piece of pattern paper. This was actually a scrap piece. And this measures 2 1/4 by 1 1/4. And since this was a scrap piece, it doesn't necessarily have an 1/8 of an inch border around it. So if you want the 1/8 of an inch border, it would be 2 1/8 by 1 1/8. And then on top of that, I'm going to add this chipboard piece from the brads and put that on top. And we're going to be slipping our pages in between here. And so that will be our closure, if everything works out the way I think it should. So let's set this aside along with our front page. So this is one of our cutoff pieces, and I have one of the hinges. We want to attach these 2 pieces together. And yes, I probably could have done this a little bit different, but at the time I cut my base pages, I wasn't sure what all I was doing with my pages. So that's why we're creating it the way that we did. And it'll be fine in the end. Probably save some paper. Once you have those lined up, just burnish them down. Make sure they're flush. You want to do that to both of your pieces, right? And these are going to go like this. We're going to have, again, the hinge on the right and a hinge on the left. Okay, let's bring out our base page. Remember, we still flip this like that. So our hinges are up at the top now. We're going to be adding our little flaps that we just created onto the base page. These go the width of the page. So you just add adhesive to the outside of the hinge. Add 1 to the left, 1 to the right. Add it up to the score line, but don't go over. And then just make sure they're even. I always check the back side. I know I keep saying this, but just to make sure I don't forget. Okay, now let's add our second piece. We're going to add adhesive to the back side of the hinge. Bring this up right in front of the score line, but don't go over. You still want to be able to fold that. On the front of our flaps, we're going to add pattern paper, and these measure 2 3/4 by 4. For the inside flaps, I wanted to add 2 3x4 photo mats. It did only provide an 1/8 of an inch border at the bottom and the top, but I noticed that it hung out a little bit, so it wasn't a true 3x4 because we have to allow room for the score line. We don't want it to interfere with the hinge, right? So I may change these out to be just white cardstock or maybe a pattern, but I'll do that later so that we can continue to move forward. And then you're going to need a piece of pattern paper, which is 4x6 for the middle. Now, if you want, you could use one of the journaling cards. And I may add some embellishments to this piece later. So I'm going to take these off for now, since I'm going to change those out. To use the closure, we're going to put one side in right at the top, and the other side gets closed down in there like that. It's very tight. It'll loosen up. Now this will flatten out as it is in the album, but that is, there we go, see? And that's the closure. For our last page, we're going to do something a little different as well, make another cut into the flap piece, and you're going to cut off a 6 1/4 by 1 inch piece, and then this is just scrap. Let's go ahead and work on the back side because this is actually an easy page to do, and then we have a waterfall to go on the front. So for this page, you're going to need one piece of pattern paper, and this measures 6 by 1 1/4. We're going to be putting this at the back. We're going to create little pockets here in the front. So we're going to glue this down with it having an 1/8 of an inch border. Now for the flap, we're going to add adhesive here and in the center and up at the top. Now, if we want to make sure we have the center, let's use our ruler to figure that out. So at 3 1/8, that will be our center. And then just fold this over. It's a way to create 2 pockets without having to cut this piece in half and, you know, do all that. For the front of this, you're going to need one pattern piece of cardstock, 6 by 3, and we're just going to put this all the way across. If you wanted to, you could delineate that this is 2 different pockets. That's cute too, but I've decided not to give the illusion that it's one large pocket. And then I have 2 tags. I need to add my twine to that, but these can just tuck right down in there. Okay, now let's go to the front of page 4. You're going to need one piece of pattern paper that measures 4 1/2 by 4. And we're going to glue this down onto the right-hand side. Put an 1/8 of an inch border at the top, the bottom, and the side. Next, we're going to need one piece of cardstock that measures 1 by 4, and this is going to create a little pocket at the bottom. So we're going to glue that down on 3 sides. This will become our closure, and just put that over the paper. And then you'll need a pattern piece of cardstock to go over that, and this measures 3/4 by 3 3/4. Next, you're going to want to cut 2 pieces of cardstock that measures 6.5 by 4. You're going to score those pieces at 3 and 3.5. Go ahead and fold and burnish on both of those score lines. So we have 2 of those. For the first one, I'm going to add some pattern paper, and this measures 3 by 4. I'm going to go ahead and attach that just to kind of help with when we go to place those pieces onto the base page. So it should just fit on one of those. Easy peasy. It's the same size. In addition to these 2 pieces, you're going to need to cut out 1 piece of cardstock that measures 1/2 inch by 4. This is kind of a spacer. Again, this is another way to create a waterfall. I've shown you multiple ways lately in my videos that aren't all typical. Okay, the way that you want to fold these is like a waterfall. So we want to fold on the 3-inch score line, and then that will be like 1/2 inch spacing right there between the 2 pieces. We want to add adhesive to that 1/2 inch area. Try not to go over the score line there. We're going to place this down on the page. We're going to line it up at the edge, giving it that 1/8 of an inch border. So that's why we put these pieces down first, because it's going to help with the placement. Makes it really easy. And then you can kind of get the 1/8 of an inch spacing here on the side. And when you got it where you want it, just push that down and we'll burnish that. So our second piece is the same way. We're going to fold on the 3-inch score line and leave it that way. So you have 1/2 inch hanging over, okay? This gets flipped over now. And you would think that you could just take this and glue it down right next to it, but you can't, because then these 2 pieces match up. So that's why we created this little spacer. So I'm going to put that in there just so that everything's at the same level. So in that case, I'm just butting it right up against the end of our first piece, right? And burnishing that down. Now we'll take this piece, add adhesive to the back, and we're going to take this and butt it up against where we put the spacer. So right there, it all should be lining up with the pattern paper that we've already put down. See how it's all lining up there? And then burnish that down. So what we've ended up creating is a 4-page waterfall. And actually you get 2 on each side basically, so you have 8 spaces for 3 by 4 photos. Isn't that wonderful? It's another way to do a waterfall, which makes it super easy. And we're going to use a tag as our stopper. Now I may back this on cardstock, or I may add another photo mat in here to make it a little bit sturdier, but this will also get used to being flat, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. We can actually go back in and burnish a little more. And then so actually you have another room down here to put a photo as well. So I love that. I might have to change this tag out. I don't know if that goes now. So that's our 4th page. So I'm going to show you a page 5 that can go in the mini album if you want it to. This is kind of optional. I spaced mine incorrectly, so I needed to add another page. So this is kind of like bonus footage. Hey. Okay. So here's my page, and what I'm going to do is kind of mimic the first page that we put together because I really just liked it. So where's all my goods? Okay, so here we have a piece of cardstock that measures 4.5 by 4. You're going to score at 1/2 inch on the long side. We're going to add adhesive to the back of that hinge. And we're adding it to the right side of our base page, leaving 1/8 of an inch on each side. So I'm really just mirroring what we did on page 1. I just liked it. So what I did was flipped it. Before, this flip was on this side, and now we'll have it on the left side. When you have small albums like this, it's so much fun to have all these flips. So on the inside back of the flip, I'm going to add my photo mat, 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. And since we're here, we'll just continue on with this. You'll need to cut out a pattern piece that is 4.5 by 4. And we're going to place this over the hinge to cover that. So we're just covering the hinge and putting 1/8 of an inch border at the top and the bottom. I mean, if you want to, you could put 1/8 of an inch border, but you kind of have that already from the photo area. Now you'll need another piece of cardstock that measures 2 by 4 1/4, and we're going to put that over here on the right-hand side. This is going to fit the entire space, top to bottom. We're going to glue this down on 3 sides to make a little pocket. And you'll need a piece of pattern paper that measures 1 3/4 by 4, and we're going to put that over our pocket area. So I'm just going to flip this, and now we'll add our pattern paper to the flip out, and this measures 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. This is from the 12 by 12 paper. I don't know why, I just liked the larger print. So this flips down. And I'm going to add a little tag as my closure. And I'll add my ribbon to that later. So that's the front of page 5. Okay, now we're going to work on the back piece. And I have a pattern piece that measures 6 by 2 3/4, and then another pattern piece that measures 6 by 1 1/2. We're going to make a pocket. I was going to do double pockets, but I wanted to get more of the cars, so I decided not to. So I'm just going to put this down first since it's the back of the pocket. And then our car piece, we're going to add on 3 sides. And it will overlap the back piece of our pocket by about 1/4 of an inch. And then I'll add a tag or journaling card to this pocket. I just don't have it picked out yet. So I'll do that later. Okay, so that's the front. So we have this, and then we flip down. On the inside here, I thought it would be fun to do a combination of 3x4s. So we're going to do 2 3x4 photo mats and 2 3x4 journal cards. To get the 1/8 of an inch all the way around it, the 2 pieces do need to touch in the middle. So if you'd rather have a border around each of them, you know, just make sure you leave enough spacing. It won't be an exact 1/8 of an inch all the way around versus when you're doing it this way. So this is what it would look like for an 1/8 of an inch border. These 2 pieces are touching. And then if you want there to be a border around each piece, you have to space them out a little bit further. And it won't be an 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I'm kind of liking this look versus this one. So I think that's what I'll do. Let's start down here at the bottom. Yeah, that'll work. Now, if you wanted to, you could make these pockets. But since we have some on the front, I'm not going to. It's nice to have a place to rest your eyes as well. So I once again forgot about magnets, but you could certainly add them. I guess I'll just use a paper clip or something to hold this one shut. So that's how that looks. That's really pretty. Now we're ready to work on our cover, and you're going to need to cut 3 pieces of chipboard. Now I have provided cut files for these pieces, and I actually cut this on medium weight chipboard using my brother's Scan and Cut, and it cuts it so well. I may end up start using that to cut all of my chipboard. There are also patterns in the cut file bundle for those that don't have a cutting machine. So you'll need to cut out one of the front covers, and this measures 6 3/4 by 4 3/4. You'll need one spine piece, and this measures 6 3/4 by 2 1/2. And then you'll need one piece for the back cover, and this measures 6 3/4 by 8 13/16. Now, like I said, I know this has a shape to it. You can use the template, you can use the cut files, or if you do not want to do the envelope design, you could just cut another one of these 6 3/4 by 4 3/4 and make your album this size. But these are the pieces that I'm going to be using. To wrap the front cover chipboard, you're going to need a piece of cardstock that measures 8 1/4 by 6 1/4. And I like to use score marks to help when I go to put down my chipboard. Score out 3/4 of an inch on each side of your cardstock. So actually I can go ahead and remove this. And I can go ahead and put this down. So I'm going to place my chipboard in these score lines that I just made. Those are only for guides. And like I said, those are only for guides. It doesn't have to be perfect. So now that I'm on the back side, I'm just going to go ahead and run my scoring tool up against the chipboard to kind of train the paper a little bit. I'm going to do that on all sides since I'm already here. This is the lay flat method by Tamara Merrill, who is the owner and creator of Country Craft Creations, in case you're new and didn't know that. Okay. The next thing we want to do is make some cuts, and we're going to cut where our score lines are, and I like to cut right in front of them so that it meets up with the outside of my chipboard here, see? And the same on this side. So I'm right in front of my score line. That way I'm ensuring that I'm going to cover the corner. So you want to do that for all four sides. Another thing we can do is go ahead and fold up on our cardstock. Again, we're going to get this ready to be folded over and burnished. We're going to do some cutting first, so don't glue anything down yet. We're just training the paper. Now what we're going to do is fold over on the long side here, or you can start anywhere. You're going to take your scissors right up against the chipboard and cut it a little bit at an angle. So you're going to cut off a little slice there. What we want to do is get rid of any excess. So I'm going to do the next side. Just make a slight angle, flip it over, and repeat that process. Then you're going to go on the short end, hold your scissors, and then just make a slight angle, again cutting that off. Flip this over and get the other side. I've shown this multiple times, so you may know this already if you follow me. Okay. Now what we're going to do is add adhesive to the top and the bottom and glue down these little flaps. Again, we're pushing in the center against the chipboard, and we're going to fold over. Okay, making a nice snug fit. And now we can glue down our sides. Now we can move on to our spine piece. Okay, we're going to bring out our spine piece, and again, I'm going to score it 3/4 of an inch all the way around. If you have spacers, you can use those. I've already added adhesive to the back. And again, I'm using the score lines as guides only. And I'm going to kind of repeat what we just did with the front cover onto the spine. Now, if you don't want to start with the back first, you could start with the inside and fold up, bring it into the chipboard. See how we're making it match up like that? And then we're going to also make our cuts again and cut out right in front of our score line. Let's fold over on the short end here, take our scissors up next to it. See, you can see like a little bit hanging out there, right? So we're just gonna take our scissors, make a slight angle and cut. And then we get a nice smooth edge. Flip it over and repeat. And we're going to glue the top and the bottom only. So for this piece, we're not going to glue down the sides. We'll do that later. For the back cover, this one's going to be a little different. And I, once again, created this to where there was 3/4 of an inch on the sides and the bottom. So let's go ahead and make those score marks if you're doing it this way. So I'm just scoring at 3/4 of an inch on 3 sides. Going to go ahead and remove the backing off my adhesive. And place this down. We're going to repeat what we've been doing, and this is just one more way to show you how to get your creases. And then these are going to be a little bit different. So I've shown you 3 different ways to do this. You can start from the back and start going around it like this. You can start from the front and pick a side and start training your paper. Or the third way was to just fold over onto that side. But again, you want to make sure you're doing it super snugly. You know what? I'm also going to fold this over on the point, which is definitely a little different. We'll see how that works out. There we go. Taking a little extra care with this one since it's a little different. Okay. Let's do what we've been doing. Let's cut out the 2 corners at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and check these on the sides as well. Okay, those are good to go. Now we're going to cut on the side of the chipboard where it is straight. Just cut right at the top or just slightly under the tip of that area before it starts to curve. Do that on both sides. You also want to fold down the cardstock like we do on the corners and then trim off any excess. going to put this back into my scoreboard. Now that I have my crease here, I can actually see where that score line is right here. What I'm going to do is go out 3/4 of an inch and make another score line. So we already have our one score line here. We're going to do the same thing. So see, with all the folding and everything, we have our score line here and here. Use that as a guide into your scoreboard, or if you're using a ruler, just then go out 3/4 of an inch and make another line. Or if you have your spacer, put your spacer there. Now we know where we can cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this whole piece off. When we made all of our creases into the cardstock, we ended up with a little triangle at the tip of our cardstock here, right above the tip. So what I did was I cut that out, and then I'm going to fold down the top, do a little creasing just to make sure the lines are defined, and then I'm going to cut out around like a V out of the top. But you can see here, now that I've done that extra creasing, we have kind of two triangles on the side of the tip. So then I cut out the triangle on each side of where I cut the tip out. I think you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. If you have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments and I'll get back to you for sure. So I do decide to go back in on these sides and make a slight angle cut on the slanted cardstock that is going to the middle of the envelope, if you will. Again, I think you'll be able to see more of what I'm doing than how I'm explaining it. And here I'm showing you what it looks like after all the cuts. So this should definitely help in being able to recreate these cuts and getting it to mold around the chipboard. Now we can start gluing down our pieces, and I'm going to start by gluing down the tip area first and then working my way around the chipboard. So I'm just folding the cardstock down and over the rounded tip, and then I'm going to use my bone folder to kind of just round the edges there at the top. Kind of like what we do when we make mini albums and we're doing the corners. Now don't worry if your tip and your sides there where it curves is not perfect, because we do have a matting piece that we put over this and it covers a lot of that. Okay, now that we have our cover all wrapped, we're going to attach our pieces together. I like to use the scoreboard for this, just to make sure everything's level. Now, when I created the cardstock wrap for the spine, I did not make it wide enough. We usually make it a 1/2 inch wider on each side. I will update the project sheet for this and put a note on the screen for you, so mine will look different than when you do yours. Okay, so we just want to make sure we got our nice little creases here. We have our front cover. Don't think it matters which way it goes. Now what we're going to do is add adhesive to one of our hinges, and it's going to be on the back side. We're going to add it about 1/4 inch down from the edge of the chipboard. You could try an 1/8 inch, but it might be too close to the edge, because when we attach these two pieces, we're going to turn this over and lay this down on top of it. It will squish the glue out, so just keep that in mind, that you don't get too close. That looks like a good amount right there. It's about 1/4 inch. Okay, I'm going to flip this back over, and I'm going to lay it up against the chipboard piece. I'm going to butt the two pieces up together, okay? And I'm going to put it flat. Both of these are flat and against the edge of my scoreboard. See? And then just wrap this down and over it. It would work a lot easier with the longer wrap. With it being short like that, it's a little close, a little too close. But you want to make sure these are flat when you lay that down. Now we're going to take this piece, add adhesive to the other hinge. Again, about 1/4 inch in front of the chipboard. And now that we have our adhesive, we're just going to lay the back cover on top, butting that up against the spine chipboard. And give that a really good burnish. And see, now we have our cover all done. Look how nice that looks. Fabulous. Now we're going to add a piece of cardstock over the spine, as well as part of the front and back cover, about 1 inch beyond the 3/4 inch cardstock we already have there. So I have a piece that is 6 by 6 3/4, and I already have my adhesive on the back side. This gets it very close to the edge, but it doesn't go the full width of the cover. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. So I like to bring it down here below the top part of the album, just to get kind of the placement I think I'm going to use. Again, I'm eyeballing this, and then I'm going to lift this up and over everything. And then when I think I have it right, excuse my head, I'm going to go ahead and release. Yep, I think I did pretty good. See, it comes down just a little bit from the edge. don't know if you'll be able to see that. All right. Now I will say that I have added the inner liner piece with liquid glue as well as tape. And I prefer the tape method. I don't think the liquid glue stays wet enough to do the process that we just did. So if you were wondering which is better, while you can do both, I do absolutely believe the adhesive tape is better. Burnish this super, super good. Where the two chipboard pieces meet, we're going to run our bone folder right in that crease, very slowly. Lift up on the left-hand side while you're making a crease with your bone folder. Okay, let's try this side now, where the two chipboards come together. Run your bone folder down along that seam. You're training the paper while you lift up on the side. Okay? And then I just flatten that out. Okay, so the cover is done for all of the wrapping and putting together. Now we can start adding our decorative elements. Okay, so let's turn this over and start decorating. Now remember that this is a landscape album, so we're decorating this way, so to speak. So I'm going to start with the front cover. And I've cut out a piece of pattern paper that measures 6.5 by 4.5. Now I'm going to turn this around so I can add my pattern paper to the back. And what I've done is cut out another one of these shapes. There's a file and pattern for this size, and it's about 1/8 of an inch smaller than the original shape. And I'm just going to add a flat embellishment here because we do have a belly band wrap to go around it. But I want a little something here for when you take it off. I think that's cute. Okay. So there's the front and there's the back. And I'll come back with our spine pattern paper. And for the pattern paper for the spine, you're going to need a piece that is 6.5 by 2.25. I'm not quite sure which way to put this. There is a little bit of text on there, but this is the front. I don't think it's going to matter. Either way, it's going to be not in the right direction. So I'm going to just put the text all in the same direction here. I would just use a pattern like this rather than something fancy because this is going to be sitting up on this piece. So it doesn't need to be anything spectacular. Okay. So there's the front, our spine or the base of our album. It's going to be sitting like that. And then the back side. For the inside, I have cut again one of these shapes, envelope shapes, to go on the inside with a border. So this is the same size as this one. And then we have an envelope front, if you will, that goes in front of our piece, our pattern paper in the back. Now, when I designed this, I created one that goes edge to edge. So as you can see here, it matches up on each side. Then I also created one that matches the inset piece or the pattern decorative piece. Okay, so if you like having the black border all the way around, I would suggest using this particular envelope front. If you want it to go edge to edge, I would suggest using the larger envelope front. And I think that's the one I decided to use because this then actually looks like an envelope liner to me. And besides, I've already got it cut. So I'm not going to waste more cardstock cutting another one. So what I'm going to do is take my back pattern piece. I'm going to lay that inside of my envelope front. And I'm going to take it down to the score line. Don't go over. And I'm going to put about 1/8 of an inch border on each side. I'm wanting to attach these in this direction so that we don't have to worry about if we're going to run into the hinge or not. So once you got it in place, go ahead and add your adhesive. That looks good. Just pushing that down against the bottom of the envelope front. And see, then you can wrap these around the back side as well. And then we just put it down all as one piece. Thought that might be the easiest way to do it. Okay, let's go ahead and glue these down now. So we're creating a dimensional pocket here, and this way we still get a dimensional pocket, but we don't have to worry about the hinges getting in the way. When you add your adhesive, just put it on the hinge, not on the 1/8 of an inch spacing, or you're gonna ruin the idea of a dimensional pocket. See? Nice and dimensional for stuffing. Now, I forgot about these little tips. You can leave them on or cut them off. I think I'm going to trim mine. Dare I do it? Yep. I think my scissors are getting dull. Okay, so that's looking good. And now we can glue this down. So with this pocket, I'll only have a black border at the top around the top part of the envelope and the bottom. I'm just going to bend this to make sure I'm getting it in the right spot so you can see that. Yeah, that looks good, yeah. So what we end up with is a faux envelope here in the back that we can stuff with lots of goodies. We can stuff things on the inside and stuff things on the front. Now that we have this done, we're going to go ahead and decorate the inside front cover. You're going to need a pattern piece that measures 6.5 by 4.5. And we're going to go ahead and glue that down. To decorate this, you're going to need a piece of cardstock. We're going to create a belly band. This should be 6 1/4 by 2 1/4. And then what I did was cut out 3 of the little 2 by 2s, just kept them all together. And this is 6 by 2. I'm just going to glue this on top, but I'm going to glue it to where this could be a pocket. And then I'm going to glue this down about there, and we're just going to glue that on 2 sides. I love seeing this pattern all the way around. It's just really pretty. And then you could take a 4 by 4 journal card and tuck that down in there. And then I have a couple of my 2 by 2 photo mats, which would be cute, tucked down in here. Now we're at the point where we can add our pages into our album. What you're going to do is come in from the edge of the spine chipboard 1/4 of an inch and come down from the top 1/4 of an inch. So I went ahead and made a little tick mark just so that I knew where mine was. And then I did the same at the bottom. I went up 1/4 of an inch and in 1/4 of an inch. So I have my mark here as well. There you go. I also laid out all of my pages so that I made sure I had them in the right direction. So let me just go over that briefly. We're going to add adhesive to the back of this hinge, the 1/2 inch hinge, and we're going to start by laying that down. In the past, I have used my hinge and put it out in front of me. So that added the spacing that I needed without having to put little tick marks. But Michelle Allen shared with me the way to turn it backward. So we're going to try that out. And I think this is going to look really nice. It's going to be a nice clean look there. So that's our first hinge. Our second hinge is also going to be in that direction, as well as our third hinge. It's going to be folded back and like that. When we get to the 4th hinge, it's going to be going toward the left. So all of these are bent and facing toward the right. Because what we're going to end up doing is overlapping the 3rd page hinge with the 4th page hinge. So we're going to put these right on top of each other. And then we'll have a nice clean area here in the back. So I thought that would be fun to try. I'm also using art glitter glue to put this down so that I have wiggle room. So remember, our hinge is facing to the right. I'm going to turn my book this way just to get started, I think. And I'm lining this up with the tick marks that I made. I mean, if you wanted to, you could even take your ruler I'm going to erase the other pencil marks that I have there. And I think that's straight. Having the little guides there, the little tick marks, is really helpful. So I would recommend that. And then I'm going to go back and erase my pencil mark. Now we'll take page 2 and repeat that process. We're going to butt these hinges up to each other, straight as you can. See that? Right up to each other. Look how nice and flat that lays. I love it. Okay, let's do that again for our third page. And then you can also see here that these are all lining up very nice, very nicely. Okay, here's our fourth one. Our hinge is facing the left. And where our, oh, you know what? Oh, shoot, I did not do the spacing right. Gosh, should have been a 1/2 inch. Oy vey. Okay, just gonna do it. And we're going to overlap these. So you're gonna go up to the score line, but don't go over, because then they won't fold properly. Okay, I didn't do my spacing properly. I should have used a 1/2 inch here so that it comes out proper. I didn't. I used 1/4 inch. So I may add another page. Okay, now we're ready to add our final page into our album. We have the hinge facing to the left-handed side, and we're just going to add adhesive to the back side of that. We're just going to butt this right up next to the one that's already there, just like we've been doing. Nice and snug. And we have a lovely 1/4 inch border right there, just like in the front. Lovely. Okay, so that is how you put the mini album together. Yeah, I think 5 pages is good. Now that we have the mini album all together, you can go ahead and finish any embellishing that you might have to do. Load up this back pocket with lots of goodies inside and on the outside. There's still plenty of room, even with the last page here. Next, we're going to create the belly band that goes all the way around the album. You're going to need a piece of acetate or cardstock, and I would pick heavy cardstock like Artisan from Country Craft Creations or whatever you might have in your stash. This should be cut down to 11 7/8 by 1.5. You're going to score at 2.5 on each end. And then just fold that and burnish. Our second piece is going to measure 8.5 by 1.5. On the long side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. It's going to be kind of like a guide, and then score at 3/4 inch. Then I'm just going to flip this around, do the same thing, score at 1/2 inch as the guide, and then 3/4 inch. We're going to fold on the 3/4 inch. We're going to add adhesive to the 1/2 inch flap area. Adhesive tape is best, and I'm putting it on the outside of that 1/2 inch mark. I usually use 3/8 inch because I always feel like there's overage, because you don't want to put the tape on the score line. Now we're going to adhere these two pieces together. You're going to add the 1/2 inch onto our first piece. Go up to the 1/2 inch mark. Make sure your sides are even, and then burnish. And repeat that on the second side. Again, just bringing the two pieces together, overlapping at the 1/2 inch. Now we need one more piece. Our third piece is going to measure 7 7/8 by 1 1/2. This is going to go down and around. So it's going to look something like this. I don't know why this reminds me of a diaper. Or the sumo wrestler, whatever it's called. Okay, now for this, I again scored 1/2 inch on each end as a guide, and then score at 2 1/2. Again, I'm just going to turn this around. We have my 1/2 inch mark and 2 1/2. So when we bend back on these, you're only going to bend on the 2 1/2 score mark. You should have about 2 7/8 in the center. We're going to repeat the same process by adding our adhesive to the 1/2 inch little hinges that we just created, let's say. Now we're going to take this piece, and I'm going to put where the two were joined near the back. So with that, we have a nice clean front, but we can add pattern paper over this to hide it a little more if you don't like that. So I'm just going to remove the adhesive backing. Then what we're going to do is take and adhere these two pieces together. We're going to put this underneath the front in the center area. If you want to do some measuring, you could. So you want it to be about 3/4 of an inch on each side of the center. So here is 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to try and add my 1/2 inch piece there. And if you don't like the look, it's okay. We're going to cover it on the front. So it looks like this. We'll remove this backing and do the same thing here. Now I am going to go ahead and do this again because that made it easier. Now you can take your album and slip that down into the holder. And it helps it stand up. Now I notice that it stands up straighter when the pages are near the front, like that. And then you can see more of the stuffed envelope portion of the album. So however you want to do that. On the front of the album, I wanted to carry on the stuffed envelope idea. So this is part of the ephemera. I'm going to add this here on the front. But what I'm going to do is actually make an envelope and put behind it and glue these two pieces together. That way I can tuck more behind this. And I thought we'd make some cut marks into the actual envelope, and we can stuff things in there as well to give that 3-dimension look. I think this is so cute, but I think we could put like a tag right in here, and then it would just make it pop a little bit. I know there's one there already. Again, I'm just trying to get that dimensional look. I can't even see what I'm doing, you guys. Oh, thank goodness. Okay. could even cut up in here if you wanted. I'm going to get a piece and put in there and see how it looks. So I pulled out a couple. See, that just gives it a little dimension. I love that. Just trying to figure out which one I want to put there. That one blends in a lot. And then this is just like the one that's already there. I do think that's cute. But I like how this one stands out. I mean, we could even cut around this. And then put it over here. Ooh, do I dare be so bold? I'm not the best cutter. Okay. So now I've cut down and around the little clip. There we go. I mean, you could even make a cut right here at the clip line and tuck something under there. Wish I wasn't covering her face so much. Let's see. Yeah, I don't like that one. Okay, now that's not bad. I think I like that. Okay, that's cute. I'm going to use the envelope punch board. We're going to make the one that is a 4x4 card size. So you just look up the card size, 4x4. Our paper should be 6 7/8 by 6 7/8. And we're going to start scoring at 3.5. This looks small, so I just want to check it. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so 3.5. Just line this up. Now, if you do not have the envelope punch board, what you can do is just use an envelope from your stash. If it's too big, just cut one side down and glue it together. I lost my little topper, and now it hurts when I punch. Now, I thought I would actually cut off the third flap on the envelope so that it just stays completely open. Now this is just red cardstock that I had in my stash. And we're going to put glue here on the front, leaving this open in the back. Just gonna try and center it on here, I guess. And I even went up a little bit because this is not a straight edge here. Okay, now we can take this and attach it to the front of our kind of a belly band here. And we can stuff some more goodies in there and then make them a little bit higher so that they're above some of the images that are already there. Wait, did I decide to use this one? Oh, I should have put my little, oh my gosh, you guys. Of course I did. Of course I did. Well, I guess I could just cut it down. glue that now since I forgot to keep that open. It's still cute. So I'm just going to add a strip of 1-inch adhesive here down the center. That should be enough to hold it. It'll also add some more stability because of the weight by adding this on the front. And now we can add our piece on top. I'm going to keep the ends even. Put it on there as best you can in the center. And I added an image to the back side. I don't know, just in case somebody sees it. I used one of the 4x4 journal cards to put back there. Oh, look how nice that stands up. Okay, let's give this another try. Let's give this another try with that on the front. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, 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 that's what it needed. It needed a counterbalance. And if you add more items in here, that's going to help it even more. Oh my gosh, so cute. You will have seen what I did back here in the reveal, but I did want to let you know the measurement for the booklet. This was 7.5 by 4 7/8. And I scored in half at 3 3/4. And then I rounded the corners just to mirror that of the card. So then that made a nice little booklet to pop in there. I love all the layers I got going on here. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so all you need to do now is just add some more little goodies in your envelope and you are good to go. Well, that's it for today, everyone. I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and share your projects. I would love to see them. Okay, until next time, happy crafting.